Let me tell you something strange. You sleep 7 hours, sometimes more. But in the morning, you still feel tired. Not just in your body, but in your mind. Like your brain never really powered down. That's not just age. That's stress. And it's doing more damage than most people realize. A study on older adults found that high cortisol levels, your main stress hormone, can shrink the hippocampus by up to 14% over time. That's the part of the brain responsible for memory, emotional control, and nighttime recovery. So even when you're asleep, your brain might be stuck in survival mode, running, reacting, never fully repairing. Now, here's the truth. This doesn't mean your brain is broken. It just means it's overwhelmed, and it hasn't been given what it needs to restore itself properly. After 30 years of working with older patients, I've seen this pattern over and over. A full night's sleep, but a restless brain, mood dips, foggy mornings, an edge that never quite goes away. The good news? There's something you can do. Not tomorrow, not next year, tonight. Because the brain still knows how to heal. It just needs the right support, especially during sleep. And sometimes, that support doesn't come from a pill. It comes from a warm bowl, a soft fruit, a simple meal that's been overlooked for far too long. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 3 powerful anti-stress foods that help calm the mind and support brain recovery while you sleep. They're gentle, natural, and if used right, they can quietly shift your brain's chemistry from chaos to calm. If you're new here, I'm Dr. James Porter. I help older adults protect their minds through science-backed, practical solutions. Feel free to subscribe if that's something you care about. Now, let's take a closer look at the first food. It might surprise you, because most people see it as plain, but your brain sees it very differently, especially at night. Let's talk about a food that almost no one associates with brain health. Oat bran. Not oatmeal. Not granola. I'm talking about the soft, fiber-rich outer layer of the oat grain, where all the real work happens. When you eat oat bran at night, you're not just feeding your stomach. You're feeding the system that tells your brain it's finally safe to rest. Here's what's going on behind the scenes. As we age, our cortisol levels, the body's main stress hormone, tend to stay higher for longer. This is especially true after sunset, when the nervous system is supposed to start winding down. But in many older adults, the opposite happens. The stress response stays active. This blocks deep sleep, triggers inflammation, and makes brain cells more vulnerable to wear and tear. Oat bran helps interrupt that cycle. How? First, it's one of the richest natural sources of beta-glucan, a special kind of soluble fiber that slows down digestion and modulates blood sugar. But beyond digestion, beta-glucan also helps calm the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. That's the internal pathway that tells your adrenal glands when to release stress hormones. In a controlled clinical trial published in the journal Nutrients in 2020, older adults who consumed 5 grams of oat beta-glucan daily saw a measurable drop in nighttime cortisol levels after just 2 weeks. Their sleep improved. But more importantly, their brain fog and emotional reactivity during the day also decreased. Why does this matter? Because cortisol is not just a stress hormone, it's a memory killer. It interferes with the hippocampus, reduces neuroplasticity, and makes it harder for your brain to clean itself during deep sleep. Oat bran acts like a buffer, not aggressive, not sedative, just enough to quiet the background stress so your mind can finally shift into repair mode. I've had patients who thought oat bran was just for digestion. They added a small serving at night, just 1/3 cup cooked with warm water or almond milk. And within 10 days, they started waking up clearer, calmer, and less anxious. Michael, 73, used to wake up every morning with a tight chest and racing thoughts. After 2 weeks of adding oat bran to his evening routine, he said, "It's like someone turned the volume down in my head." But oat bran does more than lower cortisol. It also feeds your gut microbiome, which plays a direct role in how your brain feels and functions. You may have heard of the gut-brain axis. It's real. And in older adults, it becomes even more important. When you feed the good bacteria in your gut the right kind of fiber, they produce compounds called short-chain fatty acids. These help reduce neuroinflammation and support the blood-brain barrier, your brain's shield against toxins and stress hormones. This is why the timing matters. When you eat oat bran in the evening, you set up your gut and brain for recovery overnight. You're not just preventing damage. You're inviting healing. Now, a few simple guidelines. Use plain oat bran, not instant or flavored versions. Cook it gently, about 5 minutes on the stove with water or non-dairy milk. You can add a pinch of cinnamon or a few slices of soft fruit if needed, but keep it light. Too much sugar late at night can undo the calming effect. Ideally, have it about 60 to 90 minutes before bedtime. Just enough time for digestion to start, but not so late that it disrupts your sleep. And remember, this is not a miracle food. It's a signal, a gentle message to your nervous system that the war is over for the day, that it's safe to step down, to rebuild, to restore. Because at the end of the day, that's what sleep is meant to be. Not just unconscious hours, but a time for your brain to do the work it cannot do while you are awake. Oat bran helps open that door. And in the next part, we'll look at a fruit most people treat as background, but when gently cooked, it becomes one of the most underrated brain healers in your kitchen. Most people think of apples as a daytime fruit, a quick snack, a source of fiber. But when gently cooked, apples reveal something far more powerful, especially for the aging brain. Inside the flesh of a warm apple is a complex fiber called pectin. It's not just good for digestion. It plays a direct role in restoring the gut lining, lowering inflammation, and calming the mind. As we age, one of the biggest hidden stressors is neuroinflammation. It doesn't cause pain, but it slowly weakens communication between brain cells. And it's one of the key reasons memory becomes slower, moods more fragile, and sleep less refreshing. Pectin steps in quietly. It acts like a sponge, binding to toxins and inflammatory molecules in the gut. It clears the way for healthier gut bacteria to thrive. And when that happens, something beautiful begins. The brain starts to calm down. In a study published in Frontiers in Immunology in 2021, researchers found that apple pectin improved gut barrier function and reduced levels of inflammatory cytokines that are known to travel from the gut to the brain. The result? Better cognitive resilience under stress. Now, let's connect the dots. Your gut and brain are not separate. They speak to each other constantly through a complex system of nerves, immune signals, and hormones. This is called the gut-brain axis. When the gut is inflamed, the brain suffers. When the gut begins to heal, the brain follows. Cooked apples nourish this pathway in 3 key ways. First, they contain polyphenols, natural plant compounds that reduce oxidative stress. Second, they provide gentle, soluble fiber, which feeds beneficial gut microbes. And third, they are naturally sweet, which helps trigger serotonin release in the evening without spiking blood sugar. But here's what most people miss. Raw apples are harder to digest for many older adults, especially at night. Cooking changes that. When you gently simmer an apple, you break down the fiber just enough to make it soothing, digestible, and deeply nourishing. You unlock the pectin. You unlock the calm. A paper published in the Journal of Functional Foods in 2020 showed that warm apple pectin enhanced the production of short-chain fatty acids in the gut, specifically butyrate, which has been linked to improved memory and reduced brain inflammation. It's simple, but it's real science. Now imagine this. You sit down in the evening. The lights are soft. You slowly eat a bowl of warm apple slices, gently cooked with a splash of water and a pinch of cinnamon. There's no rush, no scrolling, just a moment of quiet nourishment. Your gut feels safe, your mind begins to slow, and your brain starts to repair. This is what healing can look like. Not dramatic, not loud, but steady and deeply human. In the next part, We'll explore a food often eaten during the day, but when warmed at night, it becomes one of the most effective tools to rebuild brain chemistry from within. There's something quietly powerful about warm lentils. They don't look impressive. They're humble, soft, earthy, but don't let their simplicity fool you. Because when prepared the right way, lentils can help restore what long-term stress slowly steals from the aging brain. Neurotransmitter balance. Here's the truth. As we get older, the brain's ability to produce key neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and GABA starts to fade. And when those brain chemicals drop, what takes their place is tension, worry, irritability, sleepless nights that blur into foggy mornings. Lentils help reverse that chemistry, not in one dramatic moment but gradually, steadily, from the inside out. Why? Because lentils are rich in tryptophan, an amino acid that's essential for producing serotonin. They also contain vitamin B6, magnesium, and iron, which are all needed for tryptophan to actually convert into serotonin inside the brain. In simple terms, lentils don't just provide the ingredients. They provide the tools to help your brain make what it's missing. A study published in the Journal of Psychiatry and Neuroscience in 2018 showed that older adults with low tryptophan intake had significantly higher rates of nighttime anxiety, mood instability, and disrupted sleep cycles. But here's what made the difference. Participants who increased natural tryptophan from food rather than supplements saw better emotional regulation within 3 weeks. Their brains responded better when the nutrients came in real, digestible form. Warm lentils do exactly that. They're easy to digest. They release their nutrients slowly. And when eaten in the evening, they can help support your brain's serotonin rhythm throughout the night. For those who experience restless sleep, overthinking at night, or a heavy emotional weight that seems to peak after sunset, this is the kind of food that meets you where you are. It doesn't sedate. It supports. And sometimes, that's exactly what the brain needs. I remember one patient, named Clara, 76. She came in exhausted, mentally worn from nights of shallow sleep and racing thoughts. We adjusted her evening meal, adding just a half cup of warm lentils. After 3 weeks, she smiled and said, "I don't feel perfect, but I don't feel alone in my head anymore." That matters. Lentils also have a secondary effect that many people don't realize. They help balance blood sugar. Why is this important? Because blood sugar dips in the middle of the night are one of the hidden triggers of cortisol surges. Your brain senses the drop and activates your stress response to wake you up and stabilize it. That's often why older adults wake up at 2 or 3 a.m., heart racing, mind alert, for no apparent reason. Warm lentils, with their slow-release carbohydrates and protein, help prevent that sudden drop. They act like a nutritional anchor, keeping your nervous system steady throughout the night. A 2021 study in Nutrients confirmed that older adults who consumed low-glycemic, protein-rich meals in the evening had lower overnight cortisol spikes and more time spent in restorative deep sleep. So how do you prepare lentils for this effect? Keep it simple. Use red or yellow lentils. They cook faster and are gentler on digestion. Simmer them with a pinch of turmeric or cumin. Avoid heavy oils, meat, or spice. You want calm, not stimulation. Eat them warm, sometime between 6 and 8 p.m. Just enough to nourish, not to overwhelm. And when eaten this way, quietly, regularly, with intention, lentils become more than food. They become repair. They become stability. Because the aging brain doesn't need perfection. It needs peace. And sometimes, peace begins with a simple bowl, prepared with care. In the next part, we'll turn everything we've learned into a clear, doable nighttime recovery plan so you know exactly what to eat, when to eat it, and how to make it work for your brain. Now that you know the foods, let's turn this into something real. Not theory. Not a wish list. But a simple routine that actually fits your life. This is not about perfection. It's about sending your brain the right signals at the right time. Here's how to begin. First, think of your evening not as the end of the day, but as the beginning of brain repair. What you eat after 6 p.m. matters more than you've been told, because it sets the tone for your nervous system through the night. Start with something warm. If you've had a heavy dinner, wait at least 2 hours before adding these foods. You don't need all three at once. Begin with one. Rotate. Observe. For example, you might start Monday night with oat bran, just 1/3 cup cooked gently with warm water, a dash of cinnamon, maybe a slice of banana. If your blood sugar allows, eat it slowly, without distraction. Let your nervous system feel the shift. The next night, warm apple slices. Cook them lightly in a small pot with a splash of water until soft. No sugar, no caramel. Just the fruit, the fiber, and the calm it brings. Enjoy it about 60 to 90 minutes before bed. Then lentils. Red or yellow work best. Soft, soothing, nothing fancy. Just a half cup simmered with gentle spices like turmeric or cumin. Eat them as a light dinner or an early evening dish. Let them do their quiet work. You can build a rhythm, 3 nights on, 1 night off, or mix and match, depending on how you feel. The goal is not to chase results. It's to build an environment where the brain can repair itself bit by bit, night after night. Try it for 7 days. Give your brain a full week of better signals. Not from pills, not from pressure, but from food. Warm, whole, healing food that tells your body the stress is over for the day. And remember, no screens late at night. No caffeine after 2 p.m. Just gentle inputs, because your brain listens to everything, and it never forgets what you feed it. In the final part, I want to leave you with a message that's deeper than science. Something that reminds you of what's still possible, no matter your age. We often talk about the heart as the emotional center, but I believe the brain carries something just as deep. A memory not just of events, but of balance. Of who you were before the stress, the noise, the fog. And